Hey kids, today is June 28th, Sunday. You're both upstairs, asleep in your beds. Today wasn't a particularly exciting day. We didn't do anything extraordinary, but it was still a full day, and your mother and I are both completely exhausted. Today I want to talk about something I truly believe, but I want to be careful because I don't want this to sound like fake positivity or one of those quotes that says, "Everything happens for a reason," while asking you to ignore your pain. That is not what I mean. When something hurts, it hurts. When you desperately wanted something and it didn't happen, it hurts. When someone rejects you, it hurts. When you don't get the job you wanted, it hurts. When a relationship ends, when a dream falls apart, when a door closes that you hoped would open, it can feel unfair, confusing, even humiliating. I'm not asking you to pretend it doesn't matter. I'm not asking you to say, "I didn't want it anyway." That isn't strength. Most of the time, that's just pride trying to protect your ego. Instead, I want to suggest something different. Whenever something painful happens, leave just a little space in your heart for the possibility that you don't yet see the whole picture. Because very often, this is not the end of the story. Maybe you missed the bus. Maybe you didn't get accepted. Maybe someone you loved didn't choose you. Maybe a plan failed. Maybe a dream was delayed. At that moment, all you can see is loss. But life is strange. Sometimes what looks like bad luck becomes your greatest opportunity. Sometimes rejection becomes redirection. Sometimes what feels like failure is actually life gently moving you away from a place where you didn't belong. Now, I don't say this because I can prove it. I don't think anyone can. Because we never get to live both versions of our lives. We never get to see what would have happened if that company had hired us, or if that relationship had lasted, or if that opportunity had worked out. We only get one path, and because of that, we should be humble. We shouldn't be too quick to label something as a disaster. There is an old Chinese story that I absolutely love. It's called The Story of the Old Man and the Horse. One day, an old man's horse runs away. His neighbors come and say, "What terrible luck." The old man simply replies, "Maybe." A few days later, the horse returns, bringing several wild horses with it. The neighbors say, "What wonderful luck." Again, the old man says, "Maybe." Then his son tries to ride one of the wild horses. He falls and breaks his leg. Again, the neighbors come. "What terrible luck." The old man answers, "Maybe." Soon afterwards, soldiers arrive in the village to recruit young men for war. Because the son's leg is broken, they leave him behind. The neighbors return once more. "What wonderful luck." And once again, the old man simply says, "Maybe." I love that story because it reminds us how little we actually know. What looks terrible today may become a blessing tomorrow. What looks wonderful today may later become a burden. We simply don't know. We only see the next few steps. We never see the entire map. This idea also fits beautifully with Stoicism. The Stoics constantly remind us that we don't control what happens to us. We don't control who chooses us. We don't control whether a company hires us. We don't control timing. We don't control luck. We don't control other people's opinions. But we do control one thing: ourselves. We control how we respond, whether disappointment makes us bitter or wiser, whether rejection destroys our confidence or strengthens our self-respect, whether failure becomes an excuse or a lesson. Marcus Aurelius expressed this beautifully. The obstacle to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, the obstacle becomes the path. Sometimes the very thing blocking you becomes the thing that shapes you. Rejection teaches self-worth. Failure teaches humility. Delay teaches patience. Closed doors force creativity. Pain develops resilience. I've experienced this many times in my own life. When I was younger, there were girls I really wanted to be with. When they rejected me, it hurt. At the time, it felt deeply personal. But looking back, almost every single time I realized someone came into my life who was a much better match for me. Not necessarily a better person, simply better for me. Better aligned with who I was becoming. The same happened with jobs. There were opportunities I desperately wanted. When they didn't happen, I felt disappointed. But years later, I found myself saying, "Thank God that didn't happen." Because if it had, I might never have been available for what came next. Maybe I would have stayed in the wrong place. Maybe I would never have grown into the person I became. Now let me be clear. This doesn't mean every painful thing secretly turns into something wonderful. Sometimes terrible things are simply terrible. Sometimes life is unfair. Sometimes there is no obvious reward waiting around the corner. But even then, you still have a choice. Maybe the better thing isn't another opportunity. Maybe the better thing is you. Maybe disappointment makes you wiser. Maybe rejection makes you stronger. Maybe failure makes you humbler. Maybe loss teaches gratitude. Maybe the experience transforms you into someone who no longer chases doors that were never meant for you. And that is incredibly valuable. This also connects with one of my favorite Stoic and Nietzschean ideas, Amor Fati. It means love your fate. Not merely accept it, love it. Not because everything that happens is pleasant, not because everything is fair, but because everything that happens becomes part of your training, part of your story, part of the person you become. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "How can I use this? How can this pain make me wiser? How can this disappointment make me stronger? How can I refuse to waste this experience?" Because the alternative is dangerous. The alternative is bitterness. Bitterness makes people believe life is against them. It makes every rejection feel personal, every delay feel unfair, every obstacle feel like punishment. But life is usually far more complicated than that. Sometimes it is simply redirecting you. Sometimes it is slowing you down. Sometimes it is removing something your ego wanted, but your future self didn't actually need. And sometimes it's simply asking you to grow. One day, the thing you cried over may become the thing you're grateful for. The person who left may be the reason you eventually met the person who stayed. The job you lost may become the reason you found your true calling. The detour may become the road that finally brings you home. So whenever life disappoints you, don't rush to call it the end. Pause. Breathe. Allow yourself to feel the disappointment. Don't suppress it. But then leave one small door open inside your mind. Tell yourself, maybe I don't see the whole story yet. Maybe this is preparing me. Maybe this is protecting me. And even if it isn't, I can still decide who I become because of it. That is real power. Not controlling life, not predicting the future, but trusting yourself enough to keep walking with courage, with character, with your values. Because sometimes the obstacle truly does become the way. And sometimes the road you never wanted to take becomes the road that brings you exactly where you were meant to be. And do not ever forget, I love you both very, very much.